Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of YBMcast, and always powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. We had a great weekend with Game 7 Baseball. We culminated this week on Tuesday with Prep Baseball Report and our good buddy Kevin Moulder. We were out with him at Maryville University, a little bit of a scorcher, but got through it. Kevin, how you doing, man?
You know what? I'm doing great. I am sitting in the air condition right now, and it feels good. And yeah, I had a great event yesterday. It was a hot one, but a good one at the same time. A lot of energy, and yeah, it was a good way to kind of cap off our month of events.
Yeah, it was a lot of good baseball players there.
Really strong roster. That was the. I was talking to one of our other guys. That was the best St. Louis top prospects we've ever had in terms of talent. It was a pretty impressive group of guys, and kind of it's just we've talked about it throughout the spring how. We have a bunch of good young players coming up, and it kind of showed yesterday. So it's just a good collection of talent.
Before we get into this, we got a couple of shout outs because I try to do this more and more on our social media and this one was just fun. We were tagged in this. It's Watch Bray Play 12. Some kids from Marucci Sports, Marucci, it looks like, down in Springfield. They tagged us in this, and it's a great shot of this young man there. It says, sometimes we just got to add a little fun. With the heat wave, we added some water balloons to the routine, and they're pitching water balloons at the kids, and I thought it was great. That's beautiful. That's just fun, right? It's baseball. You got to have some fun.
I wish we would have done that yesterday, too. That would have been nice.
It's a great,
some cold water on it.
Great way to end an event, right?
Yeah, I could have used it in the middle of the event too. But yes.
And then we have some really cool stuff here. We got some announcements that we want to give you. Francis Howell shared out. Jake Mccutchen was given second team high school All-American honors from the Collegiate Baseball newspaper. And Kevin, you're probably a little more aware of the Collegiate Baseball newspaper and the prestige of that. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's a tremendous honor. That's obviously a nationwide newspaper that a lot of the college coaches follow and read, and that's a tremendous honor there, and well deserving for Jake Mccutchen, certainly.
Absolutely. And then Brett Norfleet, ABCA Rawlings Sports, third team high school All-American, another again. How many? I'm not myself aware of the ABCA. What is that?
The American Baseball Coaches Association, which probably has about 7,500 members, maybe up to 8,000. So all the college coaches in the country, high school coaches, people, more in the private sector, even some professional baseball guys are involved in it. So really neat community. And they get together once a year for an annual convention. This coming year, it's in Nashville. Coach Perkins has won ABCA High School Coach of the Year before. So that's a big deal. And, another guy, certainly well-deserving. Brett had a phenomenal year, and, obviously propelled him and Jake propelled Howell all the way to third-place finish for Missouri 6A.
Exactly. And to me, I think when we're talking about baseball in Missouri, getting this information out there, talking more and more about these young people in this state, and making people aware that these kids are getting national honors, I think does a great amount for the state, correct?
Yeah, definitely, and it's good to see. We think pretty highly of Missouri baseball, and it's good to see the players in the state getting national recognition as well.
Absolutely. And Prep Baseball Report Missouri just released their 2022 Player of the Year. Justin's going to throw that up. It's a little quick video. You can go to their Twitter account at PBR Missouri and check this out. But go ahead, Kevin. I'll let you do that.
Yeah, Carson Milbrandt ended up being our PBR Missouri Player of the Year, and Carson's a great, great selection. Obviously, I think he's going to be the top draft pick in our state, but that's not why he won the award. He had a phenomenal year on the mound. I believe he went 7-1, hit 400 on the mound, and also hit 400 and struck out 90-plus guys in about 50 innings of work. So, he has big-time stuff. It was highly competitive, though. Just to name a couple guys that were right in the mix. And, the two that we just talked about, Jake Mccutchen and Brett Norfleet. In particular, Norfleet, I took a really hard look at. If there was a top five, Mccutchen would be in that for sure. Norfleet with 40, hitting 440, 9 homers, 7 triples, and a bunch of doubles. That's really impressive numbers. The other player that came charging into that was Will Leopard. He probably finished runner-up. Had a tremendous year for Boyer Oak and had some ridiculous pitching numbers. And had a solid year at the plate. I believe he hit about 4 homers. And so there was some good competition. Hayden Nazarene down in the southeast part of the state also had a phenomenal year, hit over 500. Now they play, in a smaller class, but his numbers were off the chart. So highly competitive, and, congratulations to all these guys picking up postseason accolades.
Absolutely. That's good stuff right there. So let's talk a little bit. We've been working towards this. We finished up high school baseball. The transition, that we make from high school to summer, all of that's over. All these kids now, seniors, hopefully they're committed. There's not a lot of uncommitted seniors in certain respects, especially maybe in that top 50, you might have a couple here and there, right?
Yeah, if they're uncommitted in the top 50, there's a reason, generally due to injury, or maybe they play a different sport. Occasionally we'll have like a football guy or something along those lines in there. But yeah, our top players are committed in that class. And, there are some guys still searching for spots, and a lot of times those guys will end up going the JUCO route, which is a phenomenal route to go, or find a smaller school, which is also a great way to get an education and have fun continuing to play the sport.
That's the key, in my opinion. And Kevin, you know this better than anybody. You've coached at high levels in Division I and whatnot. When you're looking at talent, give me an honest, and I know this is hard, because sometimes it's like, people don't. Look, if you want to play baseball at the collegiate level, there's plenty of opportunities, right?
Yeah, and, you touched on my coaching career. I've actually been either a player or a coach at every single level of college baseball other than Division III. I played NAI, junior college, and Division I baseball in my college career. I coached at Division II, junior college, and Division I. So there's a lot of great options out there, and there's some really good players at all of those levels. You can get an opportunity to play pro ball after any one of those spots. So there's guys in the big leagues that played NAI baseball, Division III baseball, obviously JUCO, Division II, and Division I is being showcased right now with the College World Series. But I always stress, find the right fit. Like, would you want to go to school there without baseball? Um, that's always a good question to ask yourself. But do you want to be the 35th man on a 35-man roster? Do you want to be a starter? Do you want to, those are different. Do you want to be on the travel roster? Those are going to be different answers for different people. But those are good things to keep in mind. It's not just, hey, can we go to the biggest school you can possibly find or get onto? It's, hey, where are you going to have the best experience? And sometimes that might be the biggest school. Sometimes that might be a smaller school where you're going to be in the starting lineup as a freshman. So those are things to think about, and I challenge kids to look into as they're going through this recruiting process.
Where is that list that we can hand out to parents? Right?
You gotta come to an event. I give this speech usually before most of the events.
There you go. And I think that's good advice, because I think there's just so much out there and opportunities. And you see this as much as anything. And we saw it yesterday out at Maryville. When you're talking about these players, we saw some kids at a highly physical developed state and some kids at a lower physical development state, correct?
Yes, yeah. And yesterday we had going to be seniors and going to be juniors at the event. So that's the 2023 and 2024 class. So, you're starting to get into that spot where some of these kids have popped and hit that growth spurt and are starting to get some strength on them. And then some of them haven't hit it yet, where they're still kind of, developing and maybe a little weaker physically. So it's an interesting spot. And then you go down into the younger guys, and sometimes the guys that stand out are the guys that are physically have popped already, but maybe their baseball skill isn't that high. They just do perform well because they're stronger. Well, at the ages as we get older, a lot of guys catch up, and it kind of bounces out the playing field a little bit.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about this. You've had, looking at your run since February, we were with you where that started there at over at Sports Barn, and on February 5th, that event that starts in the winter there. You've been running throughout the state at event after event, seeing this, seeing that, seeing all these players across the state. What does that do for the visibility of Missouri baseball?
Well, I'd like to think it enhances it greatly. I try to legitimately cover the entire state as best possible. It isn't fully possible, because there's so many schools, but in particular with the larger schools, 3A through 6A, we try to get out and see everything that we possibly can. Obviously, every player has the opportunity to come to events as well. So, we try to get out and see games. We do get out and see a ton of games. And then, if we happen to miss you, you can always come to an event. And so no one is left out if they choose to want to get exposure. And, we don't hand out scholarships, but we certainly make it possible for guys to gain exposure and get opportunities to receive them. And I feel like that's our main job is, to get the players out in front of the college coaches, whether that's social media, whether that's through our website, whether that's through word of mouth, me working on the phones, or seeing coaches like I'm going over to Creekside this weekend for a big tournament, whether that's me passing names along when I see college coaches. So, it's a collaborative. It's a collection of things. Multiple different ways to do it, and we try to publicize these players as best as we can.
And so I think this goes to that point of it, when you're talking about, there are people that go, oh, well, these events, we can do this and whatnot. Recruiting at a baseball level, I think, and over the years that I've watched it compared to, say, football or basketball, is a different type of thought process. And especially since all the stuff with COVID, it changed a lot of the way coaches approach things, and especially with all the technology that we have today, the measurables are there. Then you can see a player on video. You can make a little more concerted effort, and not to mention, you can watch a player play at an event because a lot of these games are being streamed from these big events, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I coached college for 16 years. I used the PBR website weekly and went to see a ton of kids based off of that. So, yeah, it's helpful. And then aside from the players advertising themselves or trying to get in front of the college coaches, you kind of hit the nail on the head with the technology stuff. The other thing it does is it can help from a development standpoint. We get the kids, whether it's the TrackMan or the Blast Motion or the Visual Edge, or now we're doing athletic testing where we're measuring explosive movements and strength. So it gives the kids a little bit of a, just maybe I'll call it a reality check, or just maybe not reality, just a litmus test of where they stand. So they know, hey, I'm doing pretty well here in this area, but looks like I'm a little behind over here in this area, or I'm not quite strong enough, and these are a couple things. So it gives them a real look at where they kind of fit in, and gives them a chance to improve, and also gives them a chance to compete versus themselves. They come to an event and then come a month later, 3 months later, the following season, whatever, and they get an opportunity to improve their numbers. So it's a fun way for kids to get rewarded as well. I can't, it brings a smile to my face every single time I see that kid hit his first 90, whether it's exit view or on the mound, or it doesn't have to be 90. Sometimes it's 84 or 85 when a kid gets his PR, and that's a pretty cool thing to see because guys get excited whether it's running a 6.6 or below a 7.0 or whatever the case is. That is a cool part of the showcase experience that is fun to take in.
Absolutely. And, here's the thing on my side of it, just watching the whole scope of things, because you alluded to this, a reality check. And I don't think that's a bad thing to say in that way, Kevin. And I understand you use litmus test because you're pushing. But there's a lot of these kids that are coming up from the youth baseball side. They've played on a team with, 10, maybe 11 guys. They're playing all the time. How much have they traveled outside? Where have they gone? What do they see? And I think, when you start talking about recruiting, you're talking about within the state, then you're talking about regional, then you're talking about a national level. Where do you fit within that? Have you gone out and played in the state outside of your local community? Have you gone into a tournament where you're getting a more regional feel and you're playing teams from Oklahoma, from Arkansas, Iowa, Illinois, Tennessee, Indiana, in this region, Mississippi, just south of us there, to a national stage? And when you go to an event and you start looking at numbers and you start putting those things up there might be maybe a little bit of a reality check to say, oh, wait a minute, I'm not at the level I thought I was, correct?
Yeah, and that's the great thing about our system here is you are compared across the country. It's not just the kid at the neighboring school or whatnot, and that's important to do. But we have national rankings, and then we also have every single kid we have every single kid, exit velo across the country, or running time, or fastball velocity, or spin rate on the breaking ball. So we can legitimately tell you, hey, do you stack up in the top 90%, the top 50%, maybe you're at the 10 percentile. That's a good way to kind of measure yourself to see where you fit.
I agree. And then I think it can inform your decision making if you're the parents and whatnot, where you start to look at. And as you're coming as a senior, if I want to be recruited into maybe because my metrics fit more into a D2 school at this point, there's more development that I can, but I want to get into a school where I'm going to get that, where I'm going to have those opportunities. And I don't think people think about that enough. That's just something that I've observed. Agreed?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And, since the pandemic and everything, the landscape has changed. Now we have the transfer portal, and these high school players are now competing versus 4-year transfers, and there are thousands and thousands of guys in the transfer portal. So, you might be a very good high school player, but, when these college coaches are looking to fill out the final couple spots on their roster, they could choose the 18-year-old who's never played college baseball, or they can choose a guy with 2 to 4 years of college baseball experience and is a full-on man. So it is challenging for these high school guys. So they need to find every edge they can get, and I think we do a pretty good job of helping provide that.
And I think that's the point of these things, is we're talking about what your scouting service and those things do, and why it can be very important to how you're understanding the recruiting process. I think it's very important personally. So, and this is about visibility for these guys in the market. And it started, as we talked about, we got a chance to go out to Columbia with you. We were at Atkins Field. Was the underclassmen. I know you're not supposed to say underclassmen anymore, but that's what I said.
We do.
But you're at Atkins Field. You're playing the junior. This is guys you're looking at to go to the Junior Future Games. Talk a little bit about the Junior Future Games, Kevin.
Well, this one, the underclass event was for the Future Games, and so we're looking to bring the top uncommitted players in the 2024 class. So they're going to be juniors. Occasionally, we bring an extreme standout from the 2025 class, or they're going to be sophomores. So, in fact, there will be an invite or two handed out this year from that class. It's a really 2025 class is extremely strong in Missouri right now. So there's a couple guys that are already committed, and so they won't be a part of the team, which is fine. The purpose of this event is not necessarily to fill the best team. Obviously, if we were trying to do that, we would invite some of the committed guys. The purpose of this event is we're trying to put on it's the number one recruiting event in the entire country. So we will select a group of players from the state of Missouri to go represent the state, and we will compete against other states, and the players get a chance to showcase the day before the games start. So they'll run the 60, take BP, work out defensively from their position. They'll do the athletic testing, and then we play 3 baseball games over the next couple days. So guys get a chance to, last year we had over 350 colleges at the event. Every single SEC program was at the event, specifically watched Team Missouri. So from a recruiting standpoint, it is second to none. There's no bigger recruiting event in the country than the Future Games.
Wow. And so this is now the first one, the Atkins Field. There's a Junior Futures Games as well, correct?
Yes, and that's a fun event, and it's a little bit different flavor than the Future Game. The Junior Future Games is also, we select the best team we can find, and that one is we're trying to select the best team. If you're committed, and there is one or two out there, we could still invite you to that. Last year, Team Missouri did extremely well in pool play. We went 4-0. We made it to the semifinals game with our 14U team. And again, they play against other states, and it is a blast. And it's just an introduction to basically the recruiting scene. We're not trying to push out under guys that aren't in high school yet, but it gives those kids a look at, hey, this is what a workout looks like. This is how these showcases run. This is where you stack up versus other kids, across the country. And it's just a fun, super competitive event and a neat deal. And it's also at Lake Point. And it goes side by side with the older guy future games. And so they also get to see what that looks like, and the mass group of coaches over there recruiting the older guys. And so it kind of gives them a taste of what that looks like.
So how I got to ask this, because we're in June here. We've been following you. We've seen a lot of good talent. There was good talent in the middle of the state there, and we got a chance to talk to a lot of those kids. And I appreciate folks following us and talk to the two young guys. I think it was Jake, Bryan, and Lucas. I'm trying to remember his last name because it's one of those ones that's a little harder to pronounce. I'm sorry, buddy. From Father Tolton.
Oh, Lucas Wiederholder.
There it is. See, Kevin knew.
Yeah. Starting shortstop. Good player.
Yeah. Those two guys really showed out well at that event in Columbia, and got a chance to talk to them. So when you're talking to these players there, we got to see Eric Williams. He was there at that event for the first time from Fort Zumwalt East. Saw another couple kids that from our area that were down there getting into those events, looking at that. How difficult is it to start choosing players for that team, Kevin?
It can be difficult. Now, the first couple can be super easy, and really identifying that first group can be kind of easy, and then when I have to start whittling it down to, make the final roster, that can get really tough because there's a lot of good players, and it gets tough to, whittle down that roster to make it work because, you can't bring too many players because you want to make sure the guys that do come get the right amount of exposure, the right amount of at-bats, the right innings on the mound, the right amount of time defensively. So you can't, we try to keep it to where guys get a good amount of exposure. So that is a challenge. That's one of my tougher parts of my job. But it is a fun deal. It's an unbelievable event. It's one of a kind, and that's what I'm going through right now. I'm actually I have a lack of a better term rough draft of the roster. We finished our last stuff up yesterday, and now we will start throwing out invites towards the end of this week and begin forming the team.
So it's interesting to me. So when you're out at these events, what are separators? And I as we were watching this yesterday and we're live streaming the game, it kind of struck me. I saw some kids, and I say this here and there, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but if you're in that place, there's got to be some work or extra effort or a dive or a run or whatnot pushing that kind of separates you from the other guys, correct?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The first thing that can separate you is your physical appearance. Obviously, whether you like it or not, that's the first things people judge you on is because that's the first thing they see is what you look like. So obviously, if you're 6'5" and 230 pounds and super athletic, that's going to catch our attention. Um,
Yeah.
and there are a handful of kids out there like that, believe it or not. So that would be one. Separator physical tools would be another separator. Does a kid throw 90 miles per hour? Does a kid run a 6.41 like Jackson Carter did yesterday at the event? There's not many kids out there in the entire country that can run that fast.
Right.
That's a separator.
Can I interject this in right here while you're watching?
Yes,
because you mentioned Jackson. Justin and I are sitting there watching the game yesterday, the scrimmage. Jackson comes up, and we're just talking, and there was a bunch of people behind us too. And I looked at Justin, and I said, now, I hope he hits one on the ground here. Because I said, if anybody takes their time, he's going to be safe. And I said this, didn't I, Justin? And Justin's shaking his head, yes. Sure enough, he grounds one down the third base line. And third baseman goes over like a routine play, grabs, boom. Carter beats him by a step. And I said, there you go, told you. So when you're out there, these guys don't necessarily know Jackson Carter runs a 6.4 40. But is it the separator, as you're talking about, when you're making a play? Do you as a defensive player take everybody seriously?
You have to. You certainly have to. And the other separators. The first thing you're looking at is physical tools, and then game tools, and then the intangibles come into play. And pride myself on seeing as many baseball games as I can. So, can he actually play the game? How does he have instincts? How is he as a teammate? And those are X factors, and those play a huge role in this. And ultimately, I feel like decide if you're actually going to end up being a good player, because you could have some strong tools but not be able to tie things together. So it's a mixed blend of all of the above.
There you go. Let's talk about some of these players we've seen over, when we were out at Columbia, it's the middle of the state, people not as familiar maybe over on this side, because we did see some St. Louis guys come over, but we saw quite a few Kansas City guys. Saw some guys come up from the southwestern part of the state, a lot of mid areas, mid-state
Missouri.
area. There it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes my mouth doesn't work, man. But and again, this goes back to the visibility of Missouri baseball from the whole of the state, and I think this is so important in the growth of it. We know St. Louis has all these clubs, a lot of development, a lot of guys working towards that. I believe Kansas City, similar fashion, correct?
Yes.
Springfield's starting to get there. They've got a little bit more of that flavor and those types of things. The middle of the state is still kind of it maybe pushes guys, one way or the other in certain respects. But that's starting to grow. The talent level, and as PBR is working in these places, it is building the visibility when these kids are going to the future games, putting their stuff online, seeing the videos, seeing the level of talent raise, correct?
Oh, 100%. And we've done a good job over the past year or two kind of raising the profile of the state, and we've had some great players leading the charge there, and it's been fun to watch it grow.
Yeah, and when you see a guy like Carson Milbrandt going to Vanderbilt, you see Dan. You're going to see Dan Bourne. Hopefully, if everything stays healthy, moves along, whatnot, going to be pitching at Tennessee, right?
Oh yeah, and there's a number of players, and like Ty Thompson went down to the Junior Future Games last year, and a couple weeks later he's committed to University of Tennessee. It's not a secret anymore. Missouri has great players, and A lot of our super talented guys are getting great opportunities, and it is certainly fun to see them get rewarded.
Absolutely. So in that group there, and you can I know it's tough because you talk about these things. You can't just I don't want to leave anybody left out. That's not my point. But you're seeing, at that Atkins in the middle of the state there, what are you seeing talent level wise, Kevin?
No, I saw some great players, some time BP performances. A couple standouts were Riker Benz, who's already committed to OU, was there, took a great BP, was up to almost 97 miles per hour on the TrackMan exit velo for a 2025 grad. That's really impressive. Trey Drzarowski was right there with them at 96.6. Mizzou commit. And there was some Crew Nordman had a standout performance. Took a big time BP. Was also one of the higher end guys there. Chase Lassiter really impressed. The Wentzville Holt left-handed hitting catcher. We saw him a number of times this spring. He did a good job. Get to see some of these younger guys because some of the stuff with the younger guys, and I'll say, I want to say is not fair. Some guys get more opportunities at certain high schools. Maybe they're on the varsity team, so you kind of know about who they are a little sooner. And this event allows us to kind of get an even look at everyone. And so that's, one of the things that event did. Trying to think of a couple others here. Carson Ramos is a big-time standout behind the plate, really good catch-and-throw catcher. Ty Holman, standout from Liberty, 6'4" right-hander, had a really strong event, topped out at 87 miles per hour. There's a lot more in there. You talked about Lucas Wiederholder already for Father Tolkien. It was a freshman that started varsity on a state championship team right there. He's a really nice player. Eric Williams, Zumwalt East, kind of learned about him this spring and came to an event, and like the metrics match up to what he's actually doing on the field as well. So that was good to see. He's got a chance to be a pretty good hitter. It was a great event and some high-end performers.
So then we went from Columbia. In June 15th, you were out at St. Louis University, had the St. Louis Open there. What stood out from that event right there, Kevin?
Yeah, that was another strong event for us. That was, we have a number of events because certainly guys, might have a conflict with another. So, and that one also had some of our younger guys fed in for the Junior Future Games. So, very strong event. No gameplay in that event, so it's a workout. Gives guys an opportunity to, showcase their stuff in that. But I'm excited about this year's Junior Future Games team. I'm putting together that roster as we speak, and it was another good event that will feed into that.
That's what I'm looking forward to. If one of these days I'm going to go down there and just watch. May not be this year though, but you can get it. You can watch. I'm sure PBR has they live stream those games, don't they?
Yes.
So if you are interested in watching, you can. I'm sure it's on. I think it's PBR TV. You can subscribe or whatnot and watch the games live there at prepbaseballreport.com. Then, as we finish up this, the future games and whatnot, a lot of dudes, we got a chance, and I like this part of it, and we're hoping to expand this and grow with what we're doing with you guys on these events. I had a great time talking to some of these kids out there and interview. I think Connor Mendel, I think the guy's becoming quite the superstar. Geez.
he had a great day yesterday. first off, we're doing things in a certain order. He comes out and he runs a 6.8960. As a catcher, that's really impressive. Yeah, had a great pop time. He was in the low to mid 1.9s, I believe. So consistently sub 2, which is great. He had a really good showing yesterday and opened some eyes. And of course, we saw him this spring, on the field for South. But he had a strong day yesterday.
That's interesting because I was over just watching the kids, take some BP while you guys were hitting before we started the live stream, and I was just we put some stuff up on Twitter, and I talked to Connor, and I said, "So what are you looking for?" He goes, "I catch or pop time." He says, "I sub 2," and he went out and did it.
Yes, he did.
I think that's impressive.
Yes, he did.
I love that attitude. He goes, I want to be sub 2. And he goes out and puts it down on paper. I think that's the mentality. I love that. And just a nice kid. And I think when you're talking about those types of things, and especially as a catcher who's running a 6.8, that shows athleticism, doesn't it, Kevin?
Yeah, he obviously is a super athletic catcher, and with the ability to run like that and do some other things, that's he was a standout, and that bodes well for him.
Absolutely. I always like to watch the hitting because you see some of these kids, and there was some dudes putting some swings on the ball yesterday. The one story, and there's a couple of kids we're going to look to get in and do some player spotlights come this fall and winter as we did last year. I really enjoyed doing that, getting them in the studio, sitting down and talking to these kids because they're interesting. And one was Carson Mccaleb that was there yesterday, catcher, Timberland. Really enjoyed talking to him. And we were just chatting about his experience, and he had tore his ACL playing football. And got the surgery, rehabbed, and was playing baseball that same year, man.
Carson, it's story of perseverance and sticking with things, and he's a really nice player. He also had a really good event. He had some really good pop scores, pop times from behind the plate, and with the ACL, and he's running a 7.2 something 60. That's pretty good after tearing your ACL. And he can hit, and kind of a cool deal. He got to catch his brother yesterday, during the game for an inning. So that was a fun deal to watch too. And Michaela boys are going to be on the radar next spring for sure.
Yeah, because his brother Connor is a pitcher. He's no slouch either, is he?
No, can be in the mid to upper 80s with his fastball and his good arm.
Yeah. So I love to see that stuff. There was a couple other brothers there. I think Mitchell brothers. There was Trenton. And
yes.
I'm trying to remember the other young man. Peyton. Yep. So I think that's kind of cool. You get to see the family, the brothers coming out. They play together at their high schools. That's always interesting. I think those are cool stories.
Yes, definitely.
Then we saw what stood out for you yesterday as you're looking at the future games and guys that what stood out to you in that event, Kevin?
One guy that I think popped off the charts a little bit yesterday was Brady Piccarelli. Had a standout performance. He took a great round of BP, and he's a guy that's been on my radar a good while. Talked a bit about him at Eureka High School.
Then I think it's the hair.
What?
I think it's the hair.
He's got some big league hair, doesn't he?
I'm sorry, man.
Hit a homer in the game. Took a great round of BP. Ran extremely well. I think he ran a 6.7 something. Can throw. Andy's a physical guy. He stands out a little bit. So good athlete, and he had a very good showing yesterday.
And I think that's what stood out to me when you see him. As you said, that's the first thing you see. He's big kid. He looked athletic. He looked strong. And then he goes out and proves it.
Yes. Yeah, he backed it up, certainly.
Yeah, because then the other young man that I thought was another Brady, Kellenbrink.
Yeah, yeah. Brady Kellenbrink had a nice day. Hit the ground rule double. Hit another ball hard to right field, and truthfully, I like him best as a pitcher. And had a great spring for Parkway South. And he's attracting a strong interest from a number of schools in our state. So he's going to be a name to know moving forward.
I like this fact of the opportunity. We're getting a chance to see a lot of these kids, and hopefully next year, as we get into high school, we're going to see and have the opportunity to maybe see some more of these games and do a little bit more and really, follow these kids and what's going on, because there's so much good baseball, in my opinion, of what you're seeing across. And I think it proved out, especially Class 5 and Class 6, that we saw at the state championships, even the 4 and 3 championship games, really good baseball games, I thought, across the board, right?
Definitely, yeah. We've talked about some of those 3 and 4A schools are extremely talented, and we've talked about that Kennett team, the Springfield Catholic team, Father Tolton, Southern Boone, obviously, as really Logan Rogersville, as some of the really strong teams that can compete with some of the bigger boys. And we talk about the difference with the enrollment. Sometimes the pitching depth isn't as deep as a Francis Howell, just because you have 600 students as opposed to 1,700 students. There's going to be some obvious differences there, but some of those top end 3 and 4A schools can really play.
Absolutely. Kevin, who else, as far as on the pitching side, let's talk mainly, let's look at that pitching side. Who stood out there for you yesterday?
Well, it touched on Kellenbrink. The one guy that had a great day yesterday was Chris Pellegrin from Chaminade High School. Lefty, got up to 88 miles per hour, and showed a really nice breaking ball. And then this one is a standout just because how often do you see it? PJ Rogan from Lafayette threw 1 inning left-handed and 1 inning right-handed. Pretty cool deal. So he's an interesting cat just because of that, and he's good too. It's not just a gimmick. He can legitimately get outs from both sides and is a good pitcher. Mason Benno from Parkway West was a standout yesterday at shortstop and on the mound. Ran it up to 88 miles per hour.
Can I come back to that? Can I come back to that real quick? Because as you're talking about, that's the kid that flashed in my mind from when we started this, because I was going to come back, but you brought him up. Because I think, he was kind of all over, and even at the plate, he hit the ball all over the yard. He had good BP. He played defense well. He pitched well. He was just one kid that, in my opinion, when I was watching the game, I was like, this kid's doing everything.
Oh yeah, he's a do-it-all type guy. So good ball player, all-around guy, and he stood out on the mound and at the plate yesterday. Just takes tough at bats. He's the guy that those intangibles would come in play. The X factors, the feel for the game. He gets check marks in those categories for sure. And another guy we briefly touched on. Because of the brother, but Connor Mccaleb had a good showing on the mound as well. It's a good arm, and he's got a bright future as well. So definitely some strong arms yesterday.
Absolutely. I liked, there was a young man that really stood out defensively. I don't know the other stuff, at the plate and things like that, but the young man.
Charlie Ison Mccall.
Yes.
Yeah, he was fun to watch yesterday. I had a feeling you were going that way. I had fun watching him play defense yesterday. He can flat out play shortstop, or just anywhere in the infield. I don't want to pigeonhole him, but he is a shortstop.
He had a little trouble finding first base. That was funny.
He got a chuckle out of that yesterday. He goes, I don't know if I'm a first baseman.
That was funny.
You know what? It is good for kids to play different positions because it gives them perspective on what the other guy is going through. So I always think it's good for shortstops to play a little second base so you know what it's like to receive that double play ball feed. So when you're making the feed from shortstop, you know you can give that guy a better feed because you've had the perspective of doing it yourself from that side. Playing third base, knowing on the timing, playing first base, even knowing what it's like to get to the bag, and hey, scooping a ball out isn't as easy as it looks at times. So maybe make sure you make some good throws, etc. So I think playing all over the diamond is a good asset. I'm not saying that that's what you'll do for your high school team, but it is important to have some perspective on the other positions, I feel.
Going back to some of these things as we're talking, we saw, Mccall just kind of diving all over. He's playing hard. He was putting good at bats. And then the one other piece that stood out, it was later in the day. I was down there and you're hollering out, hey, we need a center fielder. And, you kind of look over at the dugout and kids kind of looking at each other. And before you knew it, it was Benno that was running out on the field.
That's pretty cool.
And those are the things, in my opinion, you don't know who's watching. But that's, as you said, that's the check mark, right?
Yep, that's the intangibles, and he definitely is a high energy guy too.
I personally think, of course, you always look for talent, right? First cat out of the bag, is a guy talented? Can he play at this level? That's a given. You have to have talent to play it at a higher level. Okay. But then that doesn't – I always go back to these things, Kevin, and I know people get tired of it because it was on the T-shirts forever, hard work outplays, talent when talent doesn't work hard, all those things. But there's truth to those things. It's just we abuse those terminologies too much and everybody gets tired of it. And that's unfortunate in my opinion. But I think there's very real things to that. There might be somebody who is a little bit more talented than another guy, but you take that guy because he's going to work hard, correct?
100%. Obviously it goes without saying. You have to have some level of high ability to play at a higher level. But we talked about this at the event. There's separators, and the kid that throws 97 that with the wipeout breaking ball, or the kid that can hit it over the light tower and can run really fast, etc. Yeah, maybe those kids get away with some certain things and can advance because they're super talented. But for the other 99.99% of us, things like good grades and promptness and being a great teammate and being high energy and just having a good feel for the game, the intangibles, that stuff really does make a difference and adds up. And those are the guys that make the team. Yeah, you want the superstars. Everyone wants, the superstar talent, but those are so rare and few and far between. Having that other stuff is so important.
As we're finishing up here today, you're getting ready for your future games. Talk a little bit about, the process as we just talking about talent and those things, as you're watching these kids play. what are those things, because as we all talk about, Kevin, I think it's difficult, and I'm trying to put this into perspective, not to go well, but this is a showcase event, right? It's
Yes.
not so much, but how do you bring that perspective though still to build those team qualities into a showcase event where you're going to play as a team, but the kids know they're trying to show for their opportunities, right? How do you balance that?
Well, it is interesting. It's not a straight, hey, let's win at all costs type deal, because that's not what we're trying to do. We are trying to put our best foot forward and represent the state of Missouri as best as we can. Now, from a player standpoint, you don't have to say too much. There's 350 college coaches there. These guys are really good at what they do. If you want to impress somebody, you better play your butt off. And that doesn't mean, hey, I got to throw 95 every pitch, or I have to hit a home run every pitch, or whatever. So the intangibles, that stuff will get picked up on by those guys. So I don't have to really say much when we get down there. It's all those coaches are sitting there in the stands watching them. It's an unspoken thing. The kids get it. I honestly try to bring some levity to the situation, and make sure that they're relaxed and not trying or pushing too hard or making it a bigger deal than it is. It is a really big deal. Some kids, it can speed up on them a little bit too much, and even you see that in the event yesterday. I had a kid tell me yesterday how nervous he was, and I just, hey, it's all right. You took a bad round of BP. You got game at bats coming up. It's okay. So it's do a lot of that type of stuff. Is getting to make sure the kids are grounded and playing their game, as opposed to be people that are not players that are not.
That's a great thought process, the speeding up, because I'm standing there with some of the players as the BP was going around, and I believe it was Michael Polite was standing there, and this young man got in the box and swung at the first pitch. It wasn't a real good pitch and whatnot, and three of the guys, Polite said it, then three guys go, yeah. He said, I never swing at the first pitch. and he said, and it was, and the reason they all went, yeah, the reason for that was it calms them down. I want to see one, just to calm myself, see a pitch, get myself settled, get out of my own head, and don't try not to press or speed up, as you said there.
Absolutely.
It's important. It's important. I thought it was interesting to that point. So, you know what? It's easy to get all puckered up when you got that many people watching you. And, when you can see all the metrics, and when it sometimes can be overwhelming. I don't care what you say. That's your, 15, 16-year-old kid.
True.
That's what it is.
Absolutely.
I want to finish up here real quick, Kevin. You guys, I saw I hadn't seen it before. Maybe I just missed it, but it was on the website. You guys have a Missouri internship program?
Yeah, I started that up last year, and just a good opportunity for guys to crack into the baseball world. And it's an interesting job because it combines baseball and business, and it gives them and scouting. So it's a cool deal. And we got about 4 guys that work for us, a couple in St. Louis and a couple over in the Kansas City area. So it's a good opportunity to gain real world experience and baseball experience at the same time. And the big piece of what we do, we had 2 of our St. Louis interns out there yesterday. They get to handle some of the technology. They get to umpire. They get to run some of the cameras for us. They help collect stats with us, and I try to work them into like literally every piece of the job, so they kind of get a taste. Now, obviously, I have a overview or a close eye on the situation, but we do give them a taste of everything. And then we've had some great interns and hard workers, and it's been a fun deal.
You got some great folks. You want to give a shout out to some of these guys that have been out at these events that have worked with you, coaches wise, top level guys, you know?
Yeah, I'd have to start with Coach Perkins, obviously, at Francis Howell, does a great job, and he's our Team Missouri coach, and I feel really fortunate that he's our coach of the Future Games team. We got a guy that's, had National Coach of the Year honors, has won multiple state championships, and, maybe more importantly, has put 4 boys into college baseball. So he really does understand what these players are going through, because he's been through it as a coach, as a dad, and I don't think there's a better resource for our guys than Coach Perkins for heading to the Future Games and helping with the recruiting process. Adam Jansen with Ace Baseball works a ton of events and comes and handles our pitchers down at the Future Games. He's a huge piece of our operation and does phenomenal work. Kind of a quieter guy, but does great job with the pitching stuff, and done a lot of big time development of arms, and good evaluator, has done wonderful things for us. And Todd Whaley has been a long time college coach and been around the St. Louis scene. Also helps out the Future Games and does phenomenal work for us. So it's certainly got a good team. Will Bradley, who doesn't come to our summer events because he's off with his real job. He's a AAA hitting coach for the Rays. So he's with the Durham Bulls in the summertime. But he's a huge piece of our operation as well, especially in the winter months. So I'm fortunate. I got a good team behind me, and that's not even to mention the back office people and the tech people and the camera people that do all the, once I gather all this stuff, I send it away. And they do. I could not do any of this without them. Trust me. You get me around some of this tech stuff. Watch out. So we got guys that put the numbers into the kids' profiles, and videos load up into their profile. So it's there's a lot that goes into it, certainly.
Absolutely. Well, it's fun. And with that kind of approach to this and all the people working together, it's no mystery as to how this is growing, how this is getting better. And we're looking forward to the opportunities in the future and continuing. Love having you on the podcast. I love talking baseball this way. I think it's great. And we're going to have. No,
I appreciate it. This has been fun. This is a good deal.
Yeah. Next week you'll be back. I know Matt's been out because Matt's traveling with his team, and he's got all kinds of stuff going on. He's got a few more weeks. I think they're leaving out, and Justin's going down with him, do some work. They're heading back down to Alabama and then back to Lake Point, Georgia the following couple weeks. So there you go. Everybody's working, it's baseball season. But we're going to have Coach P on next week. So Coach Perkins will be on with us next week, and we'll be talking. So I think that'll get that perspective there from his side, and look forward to that.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Kevin, as always, man, appreciate your time, sir. And folks, if you want to follow Kevin Moulder, you can follow him on Twitter and Instagram. It's easy. It's at PBR Missouri and at PBR _. It's the old _ Moulder. So get on there, check him out on Twitter, check him out on Instagram, and make sure you're following him there. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We do appreciate it. Remember, throw your comments below. Subscribe. If you're here and you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. That helps us. Share this out with your friends. That helps us too. We want to grow this across the state, build up the community of baseball in the state of Missouri, and have some fun doing it. So till next time, all you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and you hitters, hit them where they ain't. And we'll see you next time.